Illinois adds 2 more commitments on Wednesday. And let's break down first Karsen Konkel, uh, top downstate prospect. You and I felt like this is the kind of guy that Illinois has to land, right? Downstate, you get in early in this recruitment. I think they did a good job. And, talking with Ryan Lott, and I'll be posting that here very shortly, the Pinckneyville head coach, like he said, this all started with Illinois' initial outreach. He was coaching elsewhere in the state, but he knew that Illinois was open to, if they felt they had a guy who was a D1 guy, to reach out to Illinois. He did with Karsen Konkel. Illinois wasn't able to get in there until spring due to some staff turnover there. But Andy Boo got down there, liked what he saw, and offered him. And Illinois really put the pedal to the metal and able to land Karsen Konkel. And Konkel didn't really commit to Illinois quite right away. But he ends up committing to Illinois. Illinois was going to bring in Tanner Hollinger for an official visit this weekend. Seems like that put a little bit of pressure on Konkel to decide, hey, if this is where you want to be, you might want to lock up your spot. And Joey, go ahead, give your thoughts. I'll move to a different location just so we're a little bit better here.
Yeah, I just think there's kind of a lot to unpack there. Shout out to Ryan Lott for making the text. Like, you're all these Big Ten coaches or this Illinois coaching staff comes down to your school and says, hey, let us know, call us, text us if you've got somebody. And Pinckneyville's not a program that has had somebody often or really, boy, it's been a while, Jeremy. I'm sure somebody will have the details on that. So for you to just make the text and shoot your shot, I guess, for your kid, that's what you want out of a high school coach. And then you look at Karsen Konkel and, Illinois recruited him as a tight end. The tape he doesn't play tight end in the tape. He's a running back. He's an outside backer, but his traits jump off the tape. He's very fast. He's a smart football player. There's a lot you got to do, right? You got to add weight. You got to learn the tight end position a little bit more. But, man, he looks like he's a kid, like you said, Jeremy, that you can't necessarily lose. I mean, you can't not get a kid from Pinckneyville. And I know the offers were there. And to be honest, after he camped at Arkansas, we knew he was camping there. He got the offer. I don't know what your thoughts were, but I thought, well, they're probably going to have to turn the page here. And I think it's just a kid who, as you mentioned, and we've talked about it, like hearing and reading some of Ryan Lott's comments, not to out your story here, but it solidifies a lot of what we said and what we thought, that this is a big process, typically a long process. And for him, it wasn't. And it must have just felt like waves of information, of texts, of calls, and you've got to sort through that. But big picture, this is a kid you've got to lock down, similar to Aiden Laughery, in the sense of, like, Aiden was more Illinois' backyard, of course, a Hank Beatty. Like, this is not it's a recruited part of the state. I don't want to act like no other Power 5 schools come through downstate Illinois, but this isn't the well that is Chicago. You should have those relationships to lock them down, and Illinois built those. And goes back to that outreach that we talked so much about in this winter of 2021 to make those connections.
Yeah, change locations. I'll deal with some construction noise rather than some bad internet connection here. But thanks for holding down the fort there, Joey. Yeah, I think, downstate. Illinois, they can't put a fence around the state. I think they can put a pretty dang good fence around downstate. I think if this is the class of, when Austin Brown was going through his recruitment, if he was a 2024 kid, I think Illinois got a pretty good chance to land him just because of what they've done on the field, the relationships you've built. But they've done a really good job, as you need to do. You can't let these players like Hunter Woodward, like Nick Broker, leak out of your state. Now, East St. Louis, the Metro East, is going to be a little bit more heavily recruited, but when you get a Hank Beatty, when you get a Caden Fagan, Aiden Laughery, or Karsen Konkel, Illinois needs to have a really good chance of landing them. And they have under Brett Bielema, which is not a surprise, right? Like Brett Bielema from obviously Northwest Illinois, but similar kind of areas, rural. I think it's really important for Illinois to land him. And the upside here is so enticing. You turn on Karsen Konkel's film, and it's a low level of football, right? It's Class 2A, I believe, at Pinckneyville. Class 3.
Yeah, 2 or 3, somewhere in that mix.
So it's a really small school football, and he's only played 5 games of varsity football. He's had 2 leg injuries, which is that a concern? He had a broken leg last year. He returned, played a full season of basketball, so it seems like he is absolutely fine. He's worked out for all these coaches. Seems like more of a freak thing. He's 6'6", 225 pounds. You turn on the film, Joey, and for a guy that big, he moves like he's a wide receiver. He's really fast. He's really athletic, quick twitch, lateral agility is really good. He's going to take some time to develop. He's going to need to have some strength. He's going to need to obviously adjust to a much higher level of football. But the ceiling here is what Illinois needs at tight end, because if they weren't able to land Konkel and say they had to add 2-star Tanner Hollinger, you're starting to wonder about, hey, what's up with tight end recruiting? Like, I like Henry Boyer a lot. I think, they got a little lucky that, he wasn't able to get out in camp due to COVID when he was going through the recruiting process. But Nate Gwynn, he's kind of a developmental guy, right? Owen Anderson, I think he's going to have more development ahead of him. And then, last year you missed out on your top targets. You go get Gwynn. This year, Konkel was your top guy. If you would have missed out on him, it's like, okay, Brett Bielema's sell of what he did at Arkansas, Wisconsin tight ends is not working out here. Robbie Disher did a nice job. Andy Boo did a fantastic job here. And obviously Brett Bielema and those guys resonated. So to land him, I don't think he's an immediate impact guy. He's going to need to develop, but you got Tip Ryman, you got Griffin Moore for a couple of years. You got Henry Boyer, who I think is going to be an important part. But in a couple of years, Konkel could flash some real things on the field as somebody who can both be a really good receiver and blocker. It's just, does Illinois have that guy right now in their future depth chart? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Tip Ryman will have eligibility still when Konkel gets to campus. The only thing that would pull him away, it would be if he went pro early, and I don't know that that's the expectation as we go into the season. So you glue Karsen Konkel to him. Tip Ryman, like, he's that guy that you want people to follow. Griffin Moore will be gone. I would say Griffin Moore would be in that same category. Tip Ryman works. I mean, the whole reason Tip Ryman's the number one tight end is because he worked his butt off to get here, and he kind of knows where to go. So you glue Konkel to him, man. I mean, just glue him for a whole year, whatever, tail him, whatever the case is. And yeah, it's going to be a development year for him, but the ceiling is really enticing, and it doesn't answer every question about tight end recruiting, but to see them go out and get a top target, because that's been the thing, right? Since Brett Bielema was hired, is, boy, all those tight ends, you bring in Barry Lunny, who was a tight ends coach at Arkansas. It's like all those tight ends, it's a good sign for Illinois to see them land one of their top targets and to beat out some pretty good programs for Karsen Konkel.
Yeah, and in this recruitment, like we've talked about it, this recruitment's pretty big. It got pretty big pretty quick for Karsen. Got his first, I think D1 offer mid-spring. Then Indiana offers, Illinois quickly offers after that as they get down and see him. Boston College, Virginia Tech, Michigan State, and Pitt, like all these schools. And, the Arkansas offer felt like it'd be a game changer. He was going to visit Michigan State, ended up not going there, was going to visit Pittsburgh. I doubt that happens now, obviously. But this is a nice job, I think, for Illinois, their process of Konkel from start to finish. And it started with Bielema's initial outreach, just saying, hey, high school coaches, we're open. If you want your guy evaluated, if you just think he's a D1 guy or whatever, we'll give you honest feedback. But we want to hear from you. And to have that connection for just Ryan Lott to have Andy Boo's cell phone number is in that he had the confidence and he had the connection there to be like, yeah, I can text Andy about this guy. I think it was important. And then they follow through with the process. They get him on campus, and as we're finding out here, Joey, we'll talk about in a little bit. They're pretty good at official visits with this thing. So a nice recruitment for Illinois here.